Guy Verhofstadt furiously lashed out at eurosceptic MEPs who accused the bloc of not respecting Britain's sovereignty in the talks over a post-Brexit trade deal. The senior Belgium MEP accused members of the anti-Brussels Identity and Democracy group of being ridiculous. And Mr. Verhofstadt called on the EU's 27 member states to vote down any agreement with Britain if Downing Street refuses to amend its internal market bill that allows ministers to rip up last year's divorce deal. He fumed, "It would appear that my colleague from the ID is no longer here because frankly that position was completely ridiculous. Stop punishing the Brits, better recognize the sovereignty of the Brits, but when it comes to fisheries that's no longer the case." Eurosceptic members of the ID group of MEPs warned that Michel Barnier, the bloc's chief negotiator, should take into consideration of Boris Johnson's demands for sovereignty in the trade talks. In a fiery Brexit debate, they insisted he is putting the EU at risk from the damages of a no-deal Brexit unless he backs down. Mr. Verhofstadt lashed out at a Dutch conservative MEP for suggesting each EU member state should do a bilateral fisheries deal with Britain. He said, "How ridiculous is that? Mr. Dirk-Jan Epping is explaining that we have not to do it in a European way, we have to do a bilateral deal with the UK. The last time you did that you lost New York when you had your own negotiations with the British." Mr. Verhofstadt also encouraged MEPs to be ready to veto any trade deal in case Britain refuses to drop controversial parts of the internal market bill. He said, "If there is an agreement, and 27 will have ratified it, and if they don't follow their commitments it will be a huge mess. After what happened with the internal market bill, it's in the interest of the European Union to foresee such a disposition in that final agreement." Mr. Barnier struck a more conciliatory tone, insisting the EU was ready to make the necessary compromises in order to secure a deal. The Frenchman said, "Despite the difficulties we've faced, an agreement is within reach if both sides are willing to work constructively, if both sides are willing to compromise and if we are able to progress, on the basis of legal texts, and if we're ready over the next few days to resolve the trickier subjects, because time is of the essence. That's why, along with our British counterparts, we must endeavour to find solutions to the most difficult areas." He insisted the bloc would have to ensure British trawlermen after also handed fair opportunities as part of the pact.